Hi, we're back. I apologize about this video because half of it is me doing a single puzzle.
I'm Falconeer111, and the person sticking their hands in fiery cracks is Mycroft Holmes.
But yes, in this we're going to talk about hell.
And
because
which
hell
is
is a hell is a thing in this game.
and it's something else entirely from. It's related to biblical hell, but it's in the sort of we don't want to piss too many people off, so we're going to make it abstract enough that it's like weird looking and strange.
You must be a riot at parties. Anyway, this is nothing. I've covered wars.
Of course he says that.
Yeah, I've covered wars.
I've covered wars, you know.
That's where I belong. In the eye of the shitstorm, the misery and the carnage and time, all slow right down, and I can call it how it truly is. That's where I do my best work. That's where I'm king of the story, man. All demons and devils, not even bothering to wear our skin, whooping like a laugh track in an abattoir, and why not? I'm in on that joke. The best joke of all? We do this to ourselves, but they cannot fucking wait to show us how it's done properly. Wherever there's a critical mass of human tragedy, it's a big flashing "come on down" sign to them. Yeah, last one I saw went that way. Happy hunting.
He is about wrong to the tune of 50% with that, you think? Maybe 40%. Like, he's... Okay. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to dance around for spoilers, but there's a lot of stuff that will only come up in dungeons that won't be having commentary. So, we can talk about it now. So, do you want...
Just spoil what hell is. Just tell them what hell is.
So, alright. You guys... have we even heard the word ages in this game yet? Like,
I don't know if we have, but there are 4. I think we're the 4th age.
Mm-hmm. And we...
there was a first, a second, a third before us, and essentially time resets, or history resets every time.
Well, pretty much. Demons are the aftermath of the second age out of the 4. And...
They were an experiment in creating a new dimension, essentially. But it's... The problem is it's starved of anima, the animating force of reality.
Mm-hmm. And it's... I mean, like... Okay, each past age was at its height. It produced the sort of shit that you just... That is the stuff of legends. That is, if artifacts survive, they are mystical artifacts people shape their mythologies around. Back during the Second Age, demons, most of these creatures were, maybe not. They were roughly native denizens of this world, and they lived in not harmony with humans, but they were cohabited. And you were talking about what hell was made as.
Just an experiment, I believe.
I think so. There's going to be a lot of I think so and I don't know, because this is Secret World lore, and we're paraphrasing a lot of entries by bees. But it's as far as the few mentions we get of what the Second Age was actually like it does not sound fun. Like, the phrase toxic cathedrals comes up a lot. And
I remember once them mentioning rust red cathedrals on the moon.
Mm-hmm. And
the rust was implied to be blood.
Yep. And it's worth noting that demons are not they're not a lot of them are inherently controlling, I guess, but they weren't created evil, and they weren't many of them used to be. Okay, so these weird looking dudes, the guys who are in sort of BDSM fake BDSM stuff. Those are called Rakshasas. And they used to be goblins, like, but in the more traditional, like, minor fairies sense. And when Hell was sealed off from this reality, the source of anima, at the end of the Second Age, it went downhill, and they were enslaved and gradually, like, half bred and half lobotomized and turned into slave warriors, because there was nothing. There was no way for them to really maintain Hell outside of what they could leech off the world. So they went through the mother of all resource crises, and you got there's a society there, but it's incredibly twisted and it's not viable.
Item located.
And I mean, honestly, I think you've done. Mostly, Hell doesn't interact with the main game outside of, like, dungeons and a couple places where it overlaps. And I have not played the dungeons that you have. You've probably seen the lore a little bit more detail.
I have. In one of the dungeons, you face Brutus, Catharus, and Judas Iscariot.
That I didn't know.
Yes, they are mini bosses.
Oh, that's beautiful. There's all these different, like, God, I can't. I'm just scrambling through my head for, like, lore that I've forgotten. I did research a while back.
We're gonna talk later in the mission. Later, there's a mission where we learn about a guy named Theodore Wicker,
right?
Who is the Messiah of Hell. Pardon me. But yeah, he looked at Hell and found it beautiful, is how it's described.
And there's some wild shit.
Yeah. Like, I have now finished all of the main story content that exists in this game. There are only 2 more missions I have not done, and that is because you need a certain level of item power.
Right, and there's Mr. Wolf, who is, and when I was doing research for this episode, somebody pointed out that he's the Native American who is placed in an inferior position to the local cowboy. That I sighed out loud.
He's the Tonto to the Lone Ranger.
Pretty much.
Well, I wouldn't call it an inferior position. I mean, they're not. He's not described as a sidekick. He's like his partner.
Yeah. He does talk about how he tends to get shafted when it comes to assignments. He tends to get stuck places and doesn't have access to as many resources or as much freedom.
Oh, well, I didn't... like I said, it's been forever since I've actually listened to all their little conversations, so... Anyway, another thing you have to learn about Hell is Hell has denizens who are not native. And that would be the Jinn.
Yes. Oh, we're talking about that now, too.
Yes, the Jinn are from the First Age, which is explicitly created by God.
Well, ish. I don't... but... Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm trying not to spoil it, because the First Age is... The entry in... The lore entry for the First Age, it's one for the, like... Yeah, for the First Age, it's one entry, and it consists of... And it boils down to... Children make snow angels because they're trying to subconsciously to desperately contact the host and bring them back to repair reality. But when humanity was created, they were also created with a lot of other, like, different kinds of nature spirits and servitor spirits. The Jinn were essentially nature spirits, and what are now demons and hell denizens were supernatural servants, and they resented humans for being elevated over them. And eventually they turned on humans, and that's what the resulting conflict's basically what ended the Second Age.
Ended the First Age.
I'm scraping
First Age,
over
you
a
mean.
lot of detail, and there are a lot of like inaccuracies in the way that that's phrased. That's like, again, check me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the core.
You mean ended the First Age?
No, the Second Age.
I was under the impression that the First Age was ended by the rebellion of the Jinn and Lucifer and whatever.
Those are two separate things. The First Age was ended by like. First Age was ended with the rebellion. The Second Age ended with the war between the succubi, not succubi, between demons and humans.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and there are the Jinn are still around, but they show up in Egypt quite a bit. So I'm not going to go too much into the lore around them until then.
Well, of course they do. They're spelled the Arabic way. They are
Yeah.
Jinn. They're not genies.
They are spirits of air and fire. Like, and a lot of these, like the lore entries for a lot of the hell monsters are really interesting. Like, because there is a society there, but it's deeply unhealthy and deeply destructive. So you get a lot of like, for instance, succubi and incubi. They're basically the same thing here, but those forms you see in this game are not their actual forms, because their actual forms are not perceptible to human minds. Not because they're like, it's not because they'll break your brains if you look at them or something, but they are just kind of parallel to reality because they are creatures of deception and illusion. So you see something that's supposed to be maybe not attractive, but sort of attractive-ish, depending on how much effort they're putting into deceiving you at that given point. But no matter how many layers of illusion you pierce, you'll never actually perceive their true forms, because your eyes can't process them just on a physical level. It's like looking at, it's like trying to draw a four-dimensional object.
Yeah, like it's mentioned in the succubi entry that they were explicitly created in the First Age to be helpful servants of humans, but they resented it, so they would do the usual succubi thing of, hey, let me lead this person to destruction through his own actions just by, like, hinting at shit.
Okay, we got our faction ranked up. We have, like, yeah.
Congratulations! You just earned another set of laurels. Try to avoid resting on them, though. It's bad for posture.
Rimshot.gif. So anima allocation is something I did not know about.
I just shove it all into combat and ignore it.
So there you go. Yeah. Alright.
Now here's me doing some stuff I said I wouldn't do on screen, because I forgot I was recording for a second.
Yeah. What was I thinking about? I hear you can recruit like actual characters from the game in this minigame and send them out on missions.
I haven't gotten any of them yet.
So I remember reading that there's at least one character from Solomon Island you can recruit here.
Oh, you
which
can recruit the deputy.
What?
You can recruit the deputy.
Oh, you can recruit the deputy, which implies
Yes, as an agent.
And that implies that he survived Solomon Island if he's still, going on missions later
The
on.
New York Times saw it, but I've been planning the "It's not you, baby, it's me" speech.
This guy reminds me of Hunter S. Thompson. And
He is a
dude-
Hunter S. Thompson caricature.
But now I'm a free man, baby, swimming in pills, pussy, and dreams of Pulitzers. No more of that human interest shit, not unless it involves horns and a forked tail. So I've been following a dead man around the world. Brit by the name of Theodore Wicker, the Crowley of Soho. He was looking for hell with a capital H. If he'd hung around, I could have given him pointers. Afghanistan, Liberia, Baghdad, Chechnya, Brooklyn. But he came here to East Bumfuck, Maine in '87. Not a great year for fashion, and a terrible year for Wicker. Booked up in room 13, never seen again. Then this roach trap went under, and nobody's touched it for a quarter of a century. Oh, yeah. My man found what he came for. So did I. The Pope was right. Hell is real, and it's not other people. This place is a door. That room is the lock. And the merry shit going down here is the key.
And now get ready for the literal worst mission in the entirety of this game. I hope you like ciphers, and I hope you like entering words in Latin one letter at a time.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I am so
With a
excited.
time limit. Yeah, that's the entrance to the Hell Dungeon.
Oh god, I vaguely remember this. I don't think I ever completed this mission.
So the rest of this video is literally this one mission. Let me see how long we have. Yes, literally 30 minutes of this mission. I am so sorry. And I tried using the in-game browser, but you can't like do things while the browser's up, so I eventually had to use my phone.
God. There does come a point sometimes where that's sort of like, I encourage you to try and figure this out.
Literally, they preface it by saying, "Try to figure this out yourself." Then a couple hours later, come back to this.
Yeah, there does come a point where you're go a little bit too far.
See, this is what you have to do. You have to spell out Latin using the cipher on the floor.
Oh, that's really awful.
Guess what? We have to do this 3 times in the same mission. And each time it's a different Latin phrase. And thank God for the guy who figured it out, because some of these letters aren't actually in the information we're given, so we have to just figure it out.
Yeah, there comes a point where that goes beyond from clever and challenging gameplay to terrible design.
This is a fucking Myst puzzle.
God, it's what they call moon logic.
It's not moon logic, because it has logic to it. It's just
No,
long and frustrating and annoying.
Yeah. Oh god.
It is a puzzle from Myst.
Yeah, we can talk. Well, it gives us a chance to talk about Theodore Wicker, so we can distract you from your pain.
Okay, so Wicker was an occultist who looked at hell and said, "This place used to be beautiful. These demons are people too when they're suffering. I will save them."
And before this point, for an age and a half, hell had been the detritus of a dead age that was leeching off of reality. They hadn't had anything close to any kind of support or reason to be proud of anything other than just like clinging to what was left. And he ended up just he rallied an army.
He is the Messiah of hell.
And there is the unfortunate part that you have a Briton who comes in, an Englishman who comes into a land of strange peoples and proves himself to be superior to them intellectually and to lead their way and change their lives for the better. But which is that's another thing that made me sigh out loud when I realized. But
it is very much. I don't think they were thinking of the colonialism parable.
Yeah, they were not. There's no way they were. And like, I don't think that they're. Yeah. It is also so alien that you do have to push a little bit to find any actual similarities there, just from once you actually see what hell looks like. There is no situation in the real world like the situation that hell is in right now. It's only so comparable.
Yep, and if you fail to do it in time, the carpet rolls back over and you have to do it again.
Because get fucked. And it is I do. Pretentious Latin is the extra middle finger on top. It's funny because Latin is, how do I put this? I spent years studying Latin in high school and college because it was more useful than I expected, which means it wasn't very useful. But Latin is the kind of language that has 12 different words for murder. It doesn't have a single word for murder, but it does have a word for killing someone through drowning, killing someone by beating them with a stick, killing someone through strangling them, and I think it also has a word for strangling someone non-lethally. It's a lot more profane, let's say, a language than people tend to think. But when you have the legacy of the church, and when you have the legacy of this Latin being how rich people communicate for millennia, you kind of lose that. You get ominous Latin chanting in the background.
Okay, this is unsubtitled. Stop talking.
For something so portentous. I can feel the other side is close, so close. I saw it in the motel owner's eyes, glazed with fear and suffering. Offerings have been poured out on this ground, soaked through to the foundations, covered over with a minimum of effort, an Illuminati hallmark. The room stinks of inevitability. Of all the damned lives I have ended, this final sacrifice is the most deserving. I hold up to you, Saccharissa, the heart of Theodore Wicker.
Okay, we're good.
I do love how the carpet got tired of waiting for him to go away and rolled out early.
Yes.
I could feel the rest of this.
And this is just me wandering around trying to figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to do. Because I at first I think it's in London. No, it's in New York. And then the second one is in London.
Have we been? I think we've been to the outsides of the cities in this LP.
In this
No,
LP,
have
we
we?
haven't been to the other cities. No.
So yeah, that's
We're only missing lore. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing there.
there's nothing there. Just you can't really go too deep into the city of another faction. Though there are some cities have vendors. London has
Yes.
the most. New York has a couple, and Seoul doesn't have anything because the dragon wants you to go away.
Yeah, I saw people in the thread arguing about the dragon.
Oh yeah, that was
The dragon pissed me off for a lot of reasons, but mostly it's the smugness.
yeah, they are so smug.
Yes, this afforded according to my plans. Yeah, that's a good antagonist.
And it's funny, if you want to see them as, if you can interpret them as competent or incompetent as much as you like, and both views are valid, which is kind of in character. So either they are really plotting all this stuff out, or they're pretending to do it so hard they've forgotten that they're still pretending, and they're just watching everything and then cackling and going just as planned, and that's actually what they had already planned. And
They think
Yes,
they're
God.
Xanatos, but they're not Xanatos.
yeah. Well, I mean, okay, you can't really say that for certain because who even knows? Well, what's this? What was the tagline? All legends are real. All myths are real.
Mm-hmm.
The myth that the dragon are insane masterminds is real, and the myth that they are completely incompetent is also real. And it can be whatever way you want.
I prefer to interpret them as just
Pricks.
thinking they're hot shit when they're really not.
Yeah,
More so for my own peace of mind, because just the concept of the dragon really fucking bugs me for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, for
Just
me,
something about them, their smugness. They're like, ah, yes, all unfolds according to our plan, and I'm like, really?
for me, it's
Because you could have told me first, so I would know what to do.
for me, it's well. This is going to sound kind of obvious, but it's probably not going to go in the way you expect. For me, it's the racism, and not
Yeah.
it isn't, and it's not just mysterious, inscrutable Orient dragons. Like it is. Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb and make the dangerous assumption you're not intimately familiar with Late Qing Dynasty history.
I am not, but I also find it very funny, given geopolitics, that the Dragon's headquarters is in Seoul.
Yeah.
Given the last 100 years of Asian history.
Yeah. But
Like, I'm reading a book on the Korean War. Was that according to plan, getting occupied twice?
yeah, there is that part.
Is it
But then
according to plan
granted,
that your entire city is, like, in artillery range of North Korea?
Granted, there really hasn't been a part of East Asia that wasn't actively being invaded in the last 100 years.
Japan.
So there isn't really anywhere they could have gone where they could have
Japan.
avoided somebody. Oh well,
All you got to worry about there is getting bombed.
Yeah, exactly. And the occupation, even though the occupation wasn't as bad as it could have been, but you also have the overthrow of the Tokugawa shogunate, a big fat civil war that was. So, but yeah, for me, it's okay. So the whole inscrutable Orient thing, the idea of the Chinese being incredibly mysterious and sophisticated and also hidden from the outside world, that's something that is native to like late 17 and 1800s China alone. That's not something that is complete. It's Chinese history is complicated, and it goes through phases of facing outward and inward. And in the late Qing dynasty in the 1800s, they went inward hard, and they cut off contact with the outside world as much as possible, which China can usually do. It's got a lot of stuff in its borders, but it also ended up collapsing because they just couldn't keep their hands on the reins. And of course, the Chinese communists doing the exact same thing later didn't help. But it is. What bugs me about the Dragon is that this sort of you cannot hope to understand us thing really smacks to me of the products of a couple of very specific eras of Chinese history, taken as if they are emblematic of thousands of years of East Asian civilization. And because they kind of imply the Dragon are both the... Okay.
In rendering my body able to survive the hell dimensions, I have made myself sick among humans. Each climate brings a new fever. I retch at the touch of sunlight on my skin. My dietary requirements extreme. I am become some Victorian storybook monster. And no crossing point, no portal will do. I travel the world searching, a leper prodigal. This one won't do, and this one won't do. It must be fresh. Exposed.
Okay, keep going.
So, yeah, it's... They imply that, like, the Dragon are the Illuminati and Templars combined for East Asia, just in sheer influence. And if you read the lore, they also have... It comes up repeatedly, the Dragon seal Asia off from the Western world. And...
Yeah, that's not...
And that's never been... That's only ever been true for a couple eras of relatively recent history. Like,
for specific nations, too.
yeah. It's frustrating seeing that writ large. And it's that just it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how history works. And that, as a historian by training, bugs me a lot.
It's like, now watch as I wander around in dirt because I was dumb enough to not look at the fucking photograph. Anyway, so part of what annoys me about it is, you really think an organization based in Korea would have agents throughout all of Asia, and they listen to one another? Like, I think you're underestimating... Sorry. I think you're underestimating the sheer amount of nationalism and racism in Asia.
Yeah.
If you think a Chinese agent will listen to a Japanese agent will listen to a Korean agent.
Well, I mean, okay. There's... the nationalism... You're assuming that takes right on an individual level. And that's not a given. But there's no... Given... But, yeah. Let me put it this way. There was a model, I think, 15 years ago in northern China, who wore the World War II Japanese naval ensign as part of a dress when she walked out. Her career ended. She has never since participated in any kind of fashion show or in any part of that world, because just showing up with Imperial Japanese insignia, like in such a public place, ruined her life. And granted, if you know anything about like the rape of Nanking or Unit 731, you know why. But there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of just resentment there between various cultures, and that it's a lot more recent than it. Okay, Germany got punished hard. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, this is really.
It's not as recent, but Europe had a...
God, this is the sort of thing that
very sustainable coming together, I want to say. Like, Europe got together and said, never again, and let's, bury the hatchet and let's fix things. And that wasn't a thing that happened in Asia.
Yeah. Germany still pays reparations, or it paid extensive Holocaust reparations, and currently has a friendly relationship with Israel. Japan refuses to acknowledge it. The last prime minister to even mention comfort women was forced to resign, and they still won't account for the fact there is a shrine dedicated to the emperor of the time, that's built entirely on a dirt mound, and the interior of the dirt mound is the severed ears of Koreans. And
okay, I had not heard that one.
Yeah, this is public knowledge, and people repeatedly challenge the Japanese government upon this, and they never respond.
See, I didn't know that one. That one's new to me.
There are some real wild, awful things that... Let me put it this way. Japan was a member of the Axis powers.
Yeah, I think we strayed a little bit away from what we were talking about.
Yeah,
but,
we did. Okay.
That's just to kill. It's just to kill air, because we have a lot of this. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left, so let's think. So I will go over the dungeons. You will see the cutscenes from the dungeons about Hell. All I can really say is Theodore Wicker wants to save Hell, and he nearly succeeds. Also, he fell in love with a succubus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Saccharissa. You gotta... Yeah. When you're coming up with a love interest for your character, you have to give her a name that comes from the Latin word for sweet.
Oh, saccharine! I never even thought of that. Oh my fucking god!
I mean, I'm not sure that's the best translation, because it's been years, but it absolutely is.
And this is funny because the Latin word here is orbis non sufficit, which means
the world is not enough.
Which is a James Bond film.
Because I mean, well, you're in London, you may as well make the reference. What's the phrase? Omnis Latinus altum videtur, which means everything sounds better in Latin. And you can, that just works, and it's not true. Okay, so since we're filling air, unless you have anything really important to say about Theodore Wicker before we go back to filling air.
No, I encourage everyone to look up the lore on the Hell Dimensions, which goes over Theodore Wicker and the whole thing, and then discuss it in the thread. And then I'll show you the Hell dungeons as we get to them.
Okay, so, oh my god, I completely forgot. Oh, do you know what original pronunciation is?
I see those shores
Yes. Shh.
flame when I sleep. I see them when I am awake. I look out at this city's dismal shapes, BT Tower blinking feebly in a sky of unfinished grey wash. I cast no reflection. The glass feels alien to the touch. I will not miss this place, no more than I regret the sacrifices I have made, or those yet to come. Do not plead, do not rage, I should say, for your language means so little to us. Oh, Saccharissa.
Okay, that's the last time we see Wicker outside of a dungeon.
Well, okay. So, and speaking of things that have absolutely nothing to do with Theodore Wicker, do you know what original pronunciation is?
I believe it's the way the words were originally pronounced before years of linguistic drift.
Yep. When it comes to Shakespeare specifically, they've managed.
Oh yes, I've seen that video. I've seen that video.
Yeah, it makes Shakespeare works when people use the original pronunciation. It is understandable for ordinary humans. It sounds like somebody's just talking in a thick accent, but it makes sense. And
A lot of the rhyming works much better.
Yes, the rhyming. It turns out a lot of it rhymes that you would not have expected just because it drifted. But people have done that for Latin, and spoken Latin sounds a hell of a lot like German. Or at least classical Latin. It's a lot of hard consonants and long vowels. It's kind of startling when you actually hear it for the first time. So but we're so used to hearing it as, pretentious, like things you hear in old universities. So we're used to thinking of it as the language that magic is. The language of magic instead of language of the people who invented the word satire. Because the Romans were terrible at almost every art form except for architecture, which they were good at, and satire, which they were excellent at. They coined, people, to this day, people classify how forms of satire and criticism by how the Romans did it. Mostly because they were the sort of people who constantly complained about how other Romans were doing it wrong.
It's true. Everything is true. Mankind and demonkind lived as one. All my work has led me to this, and yet, still it changes everything. They were right to suppress this history, man and demon both, for its magnificence is fracturing. My mind is stripped naked by the possibilities. The historian's curse is to forever be on the outside, looking in on former glories trapped in amber. What if one had the means to return them? What if one had the will to do it?
I mean, the flip side to the historian's curse he brought up there is being on the outside of the amber means you don't have to be stuck in there. History, there are wonderful things that happened in the past, and you generally don't want to live in interesting times. everyone in this thread knows that through experience, through personal experience. So, yeah, like this game treats history as a grab bag of fun ideas, which is great, and I like it. But they don't always do well with it, and sometimes there are things they do in Egypt, say, and Transylvania where they do it right and they do it really well. But there are times with, say, the Dragon where they do it really, really bad, and it just rubs me the wrong way when I see it.
So we are going to see the outside of the London Museum of the Occult. At some point, I'll probably show off part of my museum. It's mostly just a way to bilk you of anima shards. Okay. How do we view Theodore Wicker last lecture? It's actually on YouTube. See? Elliot Dewhurst. If you search that on YouTube, you will find his lecture. I will post a link in the thread. I like this. Like we have the mission the mission ending is we have to find people like this very quickly so they can be made to accept tenured life.
Yeah, you forgot the word blissful there. Like
blissful tenured life.
Yeah, which there's a certain kind of beauty to it, and you do see every faction has an academic who's trapped in the
we're
capital.
In your favorite place. The theme park.
So do we get to tear into this? Well, do I get to tear into this next time?
That depends on how long it takes me to do all John Wolfe stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it might if we do it, it might be an over hour-long video, and that's a little. So most likely it's going to be John Wolfe's shit and then the theme park.
Okay, good. I'm looking forward to it.
Now I'm looking around wondering where the fucking Gaga Goo Goo is coming from.
Yeah.
Local bounty detected. Initiated.
And there's John Wolfe at the end of the episode.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and see you next time.
See you next time.